Hello, beautiful people, and welcome. My name is Alexis Littlejohn. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist and restorative wellness practitioner. Now, in this short video, I really want to go over my actual results. So I'm going to be interpreting my GIMAP and MRT test results and kind of showing you guys what to expect, what they look like, all that good stuff. Now, if you're coming over from what to expect from the Road to Gastrointestinal Healing packages, that video really explains the process of the whole program, what to expect, and really like how to access it, all that good stuff. So if you haven't checked that out, I encourage you to do so. That video is available on my website. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. So here at Holistic Essentials, we use the GIMAP, which is short for the Gastrointestinal Microbial Assay Plus. This test uses only one stool sample to quantify results, unlike other tests on the market. It focuses on identifying microbes that may be disturbing the normal microbial balance that contribute to illness. It screens for pathogens, commensal bacteria, opportunistic pathogens, fungi, viruses, parasites, using something that we call DNA analysis. And to dive deeper into that, it uses quantitative real-time polymerase chain reaction, which is one of the most powerful and sensitive gene analysis techniques available, which is capable of quantifying gene expression, determining genotypes, detecting pathogens, and providing prescriptive drug direction for certain positive markers. And you're probably saying, what does that mean? Simply put, this test is able to identify how these pathogens are going to move and respond in your system. We also use the mediator release test, the MRT, here at Holistic Essentials. Now, this test provides excellent accuracy, a 94.5% sensitivity, which reflects the test's ability to accurately pick up food reactions. In addition to that, a 91.7 specificity, which measures the portion of actual negatives and correctly identifies them. This test also, unlike other tests, identifies 170 foods and chemicals. So a lot of times we are exposed to different processed foods, shelf life food, and it has chemicals in it. So it's able to pick up those chemicals and kind of be like, okay, you're having a reaction to these things as well. It also identifies your inflammatory response to food and chemicals. It also measures the mediators that are released from the white blood cells, unlike other tests. And last but certainly not least, it identifies which foods are going to be best for you. Now you're probably wondering, why are we using the GIMAP and the MRT test together? The GIMAP stool test is designed to identify imbalances that are present in the gastrointestinal tract. The information received from this test gives us valuable insight into parasitic pathogens, viral pathogens, normal bacteria, opportunistic bacteria, potential autoimmune triggers, fungi, yeast, parasites, worms, and important information about the quality of our intestinal health and immunity. It's really critical to identify, then address any functional issues that are present so that we can begin the healing process. Next, we use the results from the MRT test, which is a food sensitivity test, to determine what foods are reactive. These foods tend to create inflammation and can hinder the healing process if they are not removed. Therefore, addressing functional issues alone without removing trigger foods will not yield the same results. The same goes for taking the MRT. Removing the foods that create inflammation would provide temporary relief. However, it still doesn't address the underlying functional issues that are present. This is why both tests should be completed together for the best results. So to dive into that deeper, say for instance, you had your GIMAP test taken. You noticed on the test that you had a parasite. You had multiple parasites. However, you decided, I don't want to do an MRT test. Now, of course, we're going to give you your supplements, kind of get you your lifestyle things going, but you're going to be taking those supplements to get rid of that parasite, but you may actually be eating foods that are feeding that parasite. So without doing that MRT test with this, it doesn't give us enough information to properly heal the body. That's one of the main reasons why this test is done together. Now, who benefits from these tests? Individuals that are suffering from fatigue, you're tired, you don't have energy, that all can be linked back to your gut. Also, people are suffering from anxiety and depression. You're probably like, wow, how is that linked? So, 90% of your serotonin can be found to be produced in your digestive tract. So that kind of controls your mood. So addressing any gastrointestinal dysfunctions that you have can improve your mood and your energy. Next, joint pain, headaches, bloating, constipation, weak immunity can all be linked back to your digestive tract. Skin issues such as acne, eczema, so on and so forth. Then we have digestive issues. So we have irritable bowel syndrome, ulcerative colitis, leaky gut. And last but certainly not least, weight gain. Majority of the population is either overweight or obese, and all this can be linked back to your gut. So this test can help so many people with so many different issues.
All right, so the fun part. What is my story? So I've been vegetarian for about 4.5 years. I've also been traveling for work for about 4.5 years. So aside from me being a holistic nutritionist and restorative wellness practitioner, I am also a healthcare IT professional, and I have been working in hospitals around this country for the last 4.5 years. Absolutely love it. However, in the midst of me doing that, I have been exposed to tons of processed food because I am typically eating out a lot. Granted, I do travel with a blender, my water machine, so on and so forth. But even with that, there's only so much you can do when your main source of food is eating in restaurants. So from that, I say, gosh, maybe a couple years back, I kind of started experiencing abdominal pain and bloating, and I was kind of confused on why that was happening. I would just kind of notice it happening with certain foods, but last year it really increased more than it was happening, and in that process of it increasing, my skin also broke out. I did gain weight, so I'm typically about 142, 145, but my weight went up to 152, and honestly, that's the heaviest I've ever been. And I wasn't really upset with the weight gain, but what I was upset with is the fact that I was bloated. I was having abdominal pain here and there, and I just couldn't understand why. And in addition to that, my hair was like really dry and brittle. So that was kind of like not exciting at all with the whole process. But I had all these different symptoms and I didn't really know what was going on. So, in this next slide here that I want to show you, I am going to show you my skin journey. And even to this day, I'm still kind of like sitting back and being like, oh my God, I didn't realize my skin had really took.
Here is my skin journey. So here on the very, very far left, we have my skin back, I would say in the fall, winter 2019. And I have a lot of hyperpigmentation, a lot of scarring going on here. And this was me eating a processed vegetarian diet. So a lot of dairy, oil, sugar, and other foods that I was unaware of that were reactive in my system. And a lot of these foods were presenting on my skin. Now, in the top of 2020, I would say more so March 2020, I decided to begin my protocol. And about 7 weeks into my protocol, this is what my skin looked like, right? It was beginning to clear up and look great. Now, about 10 weeks into my protocol, June 1st, I had two weeks left before I was done. This is what my skin looked like. Now, mind you, prior to me even doing this protocol, I had been using, cleansers on my skin. I had even transitioned to like natural cleansers to try to, balance out my skin. They helped a little bit, but I would constantly be battling with, oh, these products are giving me a glow one week, and then next week I eat something terrible and I'm fighting a breakout. So it was really back and forth. And I say all that to say, a lot of times we don't really realize that, yeah, these products may work, but they work when you use and have a good diet too. Like you're using quality products, you're drinking your water, you're doing all these other things. And for me, it wasn't just as simple as, oh, just use these products to get rid of it. It was something happening within my digestive tract that was presenting on my skin. So I say all that to say, We really have to begin to get to the root of the problem rather than just kind of brushing over it or using these lotions and potions thinking that they're going to actually heal our bodies, when in actuality, they are really suppressing a lot of the symptoms, or in my case, really not even suppressing it, just kind of allowing me to get by and not really getting the results that I truly wanted. So it's really important to have these types of tests done because it allows us to identify what's happening and then address them without just kind of dismissing what's going on in your body. All right, so next up we have our GIMAP stool test. Now, the GIMAP includes bacterial, parasitic, and viral pathogens that are commonly known to cause intestinal gastritis. It's important to note that not all individuals with positive findings for pathogens will present with symptoms. Many factors, including the health of the individual, the transient nature of some pathogens, and the presence and expression of virulence factors all contribute to an individual's symptoms. So here on our test, you see on the far left-hand side, we have pathogens. We have the bacterial pathogens, parasitic pathogens, and viral pathogens. Here in the middle is giving us the result. So when we see DL, that means nothing was detected. And then on the far right, we have normal. So this is the normal range that we kind of want to fall under. So with me on my test, we don't have any bacterial pathogens or any parasitic pathogens or viral pathogens. All right, so on this screen, we have H. pylori, normal bacteria flora, and the phylomicrobiota. So with H. pylori, 50% of the world's population may harbor H. pylori, and although many carriers are asymptomatic, H. pylori is known to have a causative role in ulcers, chronic gastritis, and stomach cancer. So as you can see, we are showing a presence of H. pylori. However, these virulence factors did come back negative. And these virulence factors, again, pretty much tell us how H. pylori is going to move in our system. And being that it's negative, it's not something to be afraid of or be alarmed about, but we do have a small presence of it. And if these virulence factors were indicating that it was elevated, then that's when we kind of want to look at this further and be like, okay, we have to kind of address this for sure. Now, next up, the normal bacteria. So commensal bacteria that extracts nutrients and energy from our diets. It maintains gut barrier function, produces vitamins, biotin and vitamin K, and protects us against colonization by potential pathogens. So as you can see, with our normal bacteria, we do have a lot of presence here. Some of them are kind of close to being, elevated, but they're not. So they are within the lab range. So we're good to go there. But as we scroll down on our page, we have the phyla microbiota. Now, an abnormal result in one or both of these phylums suggests imbalanced normal microbes in the GI tract. When we see high firmicutes and low bacterial deets, resulting in high FV ratio, this suggests microbial imbalance, which may be related to increased caloric extraction from food, fat deposition and lipogenesis, impaired insulin sensitivity, and increased inflammation. So what are the causes of this? So usually it can come from poor diet, dysbiosis, maldigestion of food, and pretty much a low stomach acid. So being that I have been on the road traveling for the last 7 months, I was eating out, not cooking my food, not really removing those pesticides and eating a lot of processed oils. This is really what causes, and we're seeing this present on my results. Next, we have the opportunistic bacteria. Many bacteria measured on the GI map are considered opportunistic pathogens as they only cause disease and illness in some individuals, particularly immune-compromised individuals. Many individuals come into contact with opportunistic bacteria and experience no symptoms. Overgrowth and excessive colonization by opportunistic bacteria may occur when the commensal bacteria are impaired by poor diet, antibiotic use, parasitic infection, or a weakened immune system. So as you can see here, we do have a presence of some of these bacteria. Nothing is elevated. Also, when we look at our autoimmune triggers, we do have a presence of some of these, but none are elevated. So we're good to go there. And when we get down here to fungi and yeast, oh goodness, we don't have any of that too. So that's beautiful. And when we typically see fungal organisms, I can't even speak today, fungal growth may be an indication or can actually cause some type of disease in susceptible individuals. So you're going to want to make sure this is not elevated too, but being that mine is not, we're good to go. We also don't have any viruses that are present. So far, so good.
All right, so next up we have parasites. A parasite is an organism that lives and feeds on a host organism at the expense of the host. The GIMAP test for pathogenic parasites and protozoa, some of which are non-pathogenic, most commonly occurring in the GI tract. Sources of exposure should be identified and eliminated to prevent reinfection. So as you can see, we have two parasites that are present. Now you're probably wondering why, okay, why are we looking at these parasites? They're not showing up in the red. They're not like really an issue, but the fact that they are present and being that my symptom presentation, I was presenting with abdominal pain, bloating, we want to address these parasites. Now, next up, we have worms. We didn't have any worms detected, which is amazing, thank God. And moving down on our list, we have intestinal health. Now, our intestinal health is going to give us more information to what's going on a functional level. So, with our steatocrit, this is our ability to digest fat. Now, it's coming back as not detected, so there's no issue with that. Our elastase 1 is our indication of how much stomach acid we are producing to actually break down our food. Now, my numbers came in at 307. And you see over here to the right-hand side, it needs to be greater than 200. Now, granted, it is greater than 200, but ideally, we really want to have that number at 500 or greater. So keep that in mind. Next up, our GI markers. Our B-glucuronidase came in at 559, and it actually came in within range. So this is another good indicator for us. We didn't have any dysbiosis going on here, so that's pretty much what that's telling us. Our oculate blood, did we have any blood present in our stool? No, we did not. Came back 0, so that's also good. What is our immune response? Our secretary IgA came back at 794, which is telling us that our immunity is pretty strong. It came back within range. Our anti-gliadin IgA is our indication if we have a gluten sensitivity. Now, being that I fell within range, we don't have a gluten sensitivity to be concerned about. And last but certainly not least, our inflammation marker, calprotectin, it came back 0. So we do not have any inflammation present.
Now on our next screen, this is pretty much giving us information about common antibiotics that, people use to treat different infections, so on and so forth, but it's going to tell us our resistance level. And all these antibiotics, I don't really take any antibiotics, really haven't taken them that much in the past, maybe amoxicillin before, but my result came back negative, so I'm not, anywhere sensitive to these antibiotics. Now with my findings, to really break everything down and to put it into perspective, because when looking at these results, not only do I have to look at the results and kind of determine what's going on, but I also have to look at my symptom presentation. So I was experiencing bloating, I was having acne, I've been traveling and eating out, for the last little bit, especially the last 7 months, pretty heavily. And all those things are playing a big role into what I'm feeling. So with my findings, I had a presence of H. pylori. I had elevated firmicutes, which come from a poor diet, not having adequate stomach acid. I had low-level parasites. And then I also had, of course, not enough stomach acid that I was producing. And my symptom presentation, all this came from me traveling, all that good stuff, experiencing abdominal pain, bloating, acne, so on and so forth. And then I also kind of experienced weight gain too during this period by eating the way that I was. All right, so next up we have our MRT test, which is our mediator release test. Now, up in the upper left-hand corner, you'll notice that we have non-reactive, moderately reactive, and reactive. So you'll see that non-reactive is green. So that is an indication that those are the foods that we can continue to consume during this period. Now, you also notice that we have moderately reactive. So those are the foods that came back that were creating some level of inflammation in your system, and they will then need to be removed for a 3-month period. You'll also see that we have reactive foods at the very top listed in red. I didn't have any reactive foods that came back in the red. If I did, we would then need to remove those foods for a 6-month period, which you'll notice too on our results. Have a lot of greens. I do have yellows, but you'll notice that we have some greens that are on the verge of converting to yellow. Those foods will definitely need to be eaten on a rotational basis, so maybe a couple times a week. And as far as the yellow foods, those foods need to be removed. So you do not need to eat these on your protocol at all. Why? They may create some type of reaction. I accidentally ate onions a few times and I did have diarrhea. I also had headaches, and you don't want to put yourself in that position. So really be mindful about the foods that you're consuming and be sure to stay away from those foods that come back as reactive. And again, to just name a few, you see I have pecan that came back reactive, corn, onion, you have mustard seed, coriander seed, which is your cilantro, maple syrup, quinoa, barley, rice. You have hops here, I have tea. So those are the foods that came back reactive in my system that were creating some level of inflammation.
All right, so I decided to pull out all of my foods that fell in the yellow category, which pretty much means they were moderately reactive and should be avoided for 3 months. So those foods were barley, bok choy, capsaicin, coriander, which is your cilantro, corn, blue 1 and green 3, which are your artificial dyes, hops, maple, mustard, onions, oranges, pecans, polysorb 80, quinoa, rice, saccharin, SMB sulfite, sorbic acid, and tea. Now, these foods happen again to fall in the yellow zone for me, which pretty much means that they were moderately reactive and should be avoided for that 3-month period. I will also state this. If you happen to have any of those foods during that period, then you can expect setbacks. And you may indeed experience some type of undesired reaction if you consume these foods. Now, a personal example, I had a good friend that made me food. I was unaware that they had onions in the food, but I ate it. And immediately I began to start getting lightheaded and nauseous. And I kind of was, done for the rest of the night. I didn't want to eat anything else. Another time it actually happened, onions was also in my food. And rather than getting lightheaded, I got diarrhea. So I say all that to say it's really encouraged to avoid these foods for that period to allow your body to begin to heal. Now that you have saw the whole process, you've seen the test, what they look like, what they're used for, now it's time to create a protocol. Now, just like I created my protocol, this is something that I'll be doing for you too. So looking at your GIMAP results, we identified if you had worms, parasites, any dysbiosis, all those things. And then looking at your MRT test, we looked at the foods that were creating inflammation in your body. So for me, I needed to address the low stomach acid, in the imbalances that I was having, also the parasites and the H. pylori. Now, in doing so, we address these through using supplements to begin the healing process, in addition to removing those foods that are creating inflammation so that you can begin to heal and seal your gut. And then lastly, making lifestyle adjustments. So does that mean taking more time to do yoga, Pilates? Are you exercising? Are you stressed at work? What are you doing to incorporate self-care in your daily routine? All these things are equally important in beginning the healing process for you. All right, you guys. So we have finally come to the very end of our video. And I'm pretty sure your next question is, how do you get started? If you visit my Work With Me tab, select the Road to Gastrointestinal Healing 3-month or 6-month package. To learn more about the program and to identify which package is going to be right for you, check out my video, What to Expect from the Road to Gastrointestinal Healing package, that is available on my website. I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.